You just don't know how to go away, do you? Did you really think I was going to let you disappear off to Iceland peacefully after the way you embarrassed me in Finland? Better think very carefully through your next move, as the lives of those you love depend on it, even those who are not what they appear to be. I'm going to make it my personal mission to make your life a living hell from here on out.
As always, if you have been enjoying the series up to this point, do be sure to smash a like on the video. That would be genuinely fantastic and much appreciated. So we didn't really think that we'd find ourselves in this position so quickly. Being on a job hunt again twice in the same literal week in real life. However, before that, there's been a slight change of plans. So I was having a look at the comments on the last video, and I've kind of come to agree with a lot of them, at least partly anyway, in that the original goal of this save was to win all 5 of the Nordic leagues with a team that had never won them before. We obviously made a little caveat to that later, but as such, we've yet actually to use that caveat. And so I know in the last video, I said that the plan was now going to be go to Sweden, get a job, and then try and win something in Europe with that, as we were kind of done with Iceland. That's changed. The plan is now going to be, we're going to get a job in Sweden just to mix things up a little bit, as the situation at Grotto was completely untenable. There was no way we were going to be able to do anything there because the wage budget had been lowered to negatives, and not negatives, but like we would actually have to sell players even more in order to build a squad, and there's no way we were going to build anything there. It just wasn't going to make much fun for us, and it wasn't going to allow any progress, and we need to make some progress. So we are going to go to Sweden, we are going to find a job, and we're going to try to win the Allsvenskan to tick off the 4th of the 5 leagues. However, at that point, we are then going to go back to Iceland and try to win that bloody league, because I don't want to finish FM22 without having won that league as well. So hopefully that will tick all the boxes and get us nicely covered. At that point, if there is still some time left, we can pick any job we like really throughout the whole of Scandinavia and potentially try to have a run at a Champions League with a team like that as well, which I think would be quite a fun way to end if there's time. But I think at least this way round, we'll still get a chance to manage in Iceland again and try to win that bloody title, because that is really bugging me that we haven't managed to win that one yet. And of course, still get a chance to manage in Sweden again, which is what we're going to be doing for the foreseeable future. But for now, just looking at the Swedish job market, so at the moment there's only 4 games left in the Allsvenskan. You can see that the entire Swedish league is stable, secure, or very secure. We're unlikely to be able to get a job in the next 4 match days, but that doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity for us to potentially take over someone in the off-season. Should one of the managers leave to maybe take a national team job or move to a different nation, there is still an opportunity for one of these jobs to come available. Or maybe one of the newly promoted sides. You never know. It's unlikely, but I'd like to at least give it the chance, because we do want to get a job as quickly as we can. And I suppose now will be a very good time to have a little look and see which teams are actually manageable today, so we can narrow down this hunt a little bit. I think there's going to be quite a few, to be fair, because Djurgården are absolutely dominant, and nothing's really changed this season. They are 4 points clear. One thing I have had a look at is, though, they haven't won the league by enormous margins for about the last 7 or 8 years. They had like a 17-point win a few years ago, like 7 or 8 years ago, but since then it's always been like 3 points, 4 points, 3 points, kind of small gaps that with the right tactics and the right squad building is definitely achievable. So you can see that in the last 20 years in Sweden, it's pretty much been an absolute domination fest. Although what I would say is, even if we brought in our new little caveat of the last 20 years, it doesn't actually change anything. So with that in mind, we're just going to use the original goal of not having won it during the save. I mean, as you can see, over the course of this save, it's been very much dominated by, initially by Malmö, then with Djurgården. Göteborg have got a couple of titles in there, and just the one singular title for Hammarby. That's annoying. That would have been great, but hey, it is what it is. EK Sirius have had a couple of runners-up spots. Anyone else in there that's kind of interesting? Norrköping as well have been around the top of the league a few times. BK Häcken, but it does seem like, for the most part, really, we only have to avoid 4 teams. That gives us a lot of options to try to win this league with obviously Djurgården, IFK Göteborg, Hammarby and Malmö all off the cards. But with the fact that ICOR didn't win it during the save, we do still have a potential to manage there, and obviously they're a historically huge side. And if you look at who's actually performing well at the moment, you've got the likes of Sirius, Norrköping, Kalmar, obviously ICOR in the middle there as well, Elfsborg in the midfield there, but Robert Poikina are up there as well. Got great youth facilities, that much we do know. They seem to be one of the few teams that are in financial difficulties. Not sure how, considering all the others are doing just fine, but there you go. Obviously we don't want to go back to Degerfors, as we already managed them in this save, but still, I think there's a lot of options for us to try to find a job in Sweden today, and I'm extremely excited about just trying to find a job and, well, honestly, just trying to put to bed what happened with the Grotta situation. I still think that if we'd had maybe 3 or 4 more weeks in that job at the start of the season, or not the start, like before that, I think we could have kept Grotta up. I think it just took a little while for us to sort out what we needed to do, and I still think we were a little bit unlucky in some of those matches and possibly could have had more, but that's the danger you run into with such fine margins over such a short space of time. The squad just wasn't equipped for it, and hopefully we'll have to choose a little bit better when we do eventually go back to Iceland, hopefully. Although I think there's a really strong chance that we should be able to get back to Iceland. But for now, really, it's just about getting our head down, seeing what happens in these final few matches. Maybe at the end of the season, a team will sack a manager. I still think it's probably quite unlikely, but you never know. If they do, we could maybe slot slot into one of these sides, particularly if they're one of the preferred ones. But even if they're not, I'm willing to go for another challenge. Worked so well last time, but we are still going to have to try and target this, of course, to give ourselves the best chance. We don't want to, I mean, I tried to target with Grotta, if I'm honest, but we don't want another Grotta situation on our hands. Cut to like 3 episodes from now and it's another job hunt. We're back in Iceland because we found another club and got sacked in Sweden. Right, that's enough amble. Let's get going. Yes, the Allsvenskan has now finished. That was a lot tighter than I was expecting, and you sort of see what I mean by this. So at one point, Djurgården was 6 points clear with 2 matches to go, and it appears that they must have lost their final 2 matches of the season and actually only win the league on, I believe, goal difference in the end. But there you have it. So I was just looking through some stuff at Djurgården to try to ascertain exactly why they've been able to be so dominant in Sweden, just out of main curiosity more than anything else. And I think I've come to the conclusion as to why. These guys are so well run, you have no idea. It's this season, this was in 2024, so no, 2041. 5 years ago, they shipped out £141 million worth of players. These guys are negotiating some absolutely ludicrous deals for some of these players that they're shipping out. They're selling another guy at the moment to Liverpool for another £30-odd million. It's incredible. No wonder they stay so dominant in this league that they can just ship out this many players and make that amount of profit. They're worth nearly £300 million. And it's not just that. It's also the quality of the managers that they've had over the last 5 to 10 years is utterly stunning. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that. So they had a manager that obviously won 7 league titles here, which was very, very impressive, and then he resigned. So then they appointed this guy who was only there for just under 2 years, won a league and 2 cups. He then left them to join Barcelona, then went to Man City for 4 years, then is now the Manchester United manager, to give you an idea of the quality of managers that these guys are finding, appointing, and then moving on. And it gets even better for them after that, because another manager came in. Matthias Henriksson was in charge for, well, 6 years, won 7 league titles and 2 cups, basically every single league title he ever did. He then left the club, and then he became Manchester City manager. So both the Manchester United and the Manchester City managers in this save are both former managers of Djurgården, which gives you an idea of just how much quality this club is bringing through, even from an administrative standpoint. They're going to be incredibly difficult to beat. The last season, there were 5 managerial changes, which is a good amount, I would say. That's definitely something we can work within that. Orebro and Helsingborg sacked managers, or changed managers, certainly. You can see Västerås also sacked a guy. Degerfors's manager, of course, left to take charge of Djurgården, as their manager left around the same sort of time. It seems really that we're looking around about May, or are there any sooner ones? It looks like May is sort of the beginning of the managerial merry-go-round. So that's what we've kind of got to be looking towards. Maybe there was something sooner, but I think it's unlikely. But it does seem like most years there's a good amount of jobs coming up. So that's nice to see. So there has been some movement within the space of like a week, because I don't always come back every single match day because there's a lot of midweek games. 3 jobs have gone from stable to very insecure, and I'm assuming this is the bottom 3 in the league. So we've got Varberg, who of course were newly promoted, probably quite a struggle. I assume they were predicted to come bottom. I suspect that's the case. Halmstad, of course, who only just survived last season, but also in there is Jürgen Bergström of Brommapojkarna, who obviously are a team who have great sort of youth academy and stuff, but I think historically seem to punch above their weight in this league. They actually came 7th, I think, last season, which was very impressive. And at one point, their manager was literally untouchable, almost at the start of the season. He's gone from untouchable to eminently touchable extremely quickly. But let's just have a look at how this is actually looking in the league right now. So Halmstad are bottom, Brommapojkarna are 2nd from bottom, and Varbergs actually aren't even in the relegation. Hang on, sorry. Just to clarify, they're newly promoted, they were the weakest side in the league, predicted to be bottom, and they're not in the relegation zone, and yet he's very insecure. Out of the jobs that are interesting me down there, of course, is the Brommapojkarna one. That's the one that really intrigues me, particularly as they've won 0 out of their first 10 matches, but have picked up some draws. Now, again, with these jobs, none of them are available yet. This is all subject to change, but I find that they very rarely come back from being very insecure. Even the Varbergs one is really odd, though. But it would give us time if we were to take over a side like Brommapojkarna, because let's be honest, a lot of the other sides we've looked at that we were kind of intrigued by are unlikely to come up. I mean, Norrköping doing well in the league, Kalmar doing pretty damn well in the league, Hammarby and Göteborg obviously are off the bait. We can't manage them anyway, but they're kind of doing a bit badly. Sirius honestly aren't doing all that well either. And I know that's one of the ones we were really interested in, but I feel like they're not doing so badly that they're probably going to sack their manager. I suspect they have relatively reasonable expectations. Icor down in 11th as well is kind of intriguing, but I don't know if it's bad enough. BK Häcken, of course, the other newly promoted side, are in there as well, but their board seem to be a bit more reasonable about things. But now it's all changed. The Brommapojkarna job is now back to stable again. And now they're back to being insecure, and Halmstad are just root to the bottom of the league at the moment. But I think that's because, nope, they've flipped around again. I don't know what's going on. Something will happen in Sweden at some point, I suspect. Maybe. I was just having a quick little look at the World Cup as things stand, being held in China of all places, actually. And Jamaica are in the third round. They got through their group and then knocked Algeria out, and they're in the third round of the World Cup. It's actually kind of incredible, some of the teams that have reached this far into the tournament. So big up Jamaica, I guess. Impressive. Sweden also through. This World Cup is utterly mental. So Scotland beat Jamaica in extra time, but then beat Brazil in normal time in the next day, setting up a semi-final against Uruguay. So Scotland or Uruguay will be in the World Cup final against either Portugal or France. What a mad-ass World Cup this has been. Brilliant, but mental. Imagine Scotland in the World Cup final. That would be brilliant. I'm having to sort of concern myself with this at the moment because there's sod all going on elsewhere. There's league fixtures back in Sweden again on the 7th, so hopefully some more action will be happening. But I've just been enjoying the World Cup. So stuff has now happened. Weirdly, Varberg's job is now completely stable, but their finances are not, so that makes them a very concerning side. Bromma have now moved themselves fully out of trouble and have been winning games, annoyingly, ever since we started to notice them. BK Häcken, intriguing, because they were the winners of the second tier last year. They also were predicted 11th, I think, or 11th or 12th this season, but they've now fallen down into the insecurity spots as well, and I say that because the job is insecure. That would also be one I'm interested in. Of the clubs at the moment down here that I'm sort of be interested in a job, Bromma obviously would be kind of cool, and BK Häcken would also be a sick one. Degerfors obviously doesn't really interest me as we've already been there. If Icor fell off massively, they'd be fun as well, but those are the ones that intrigue me. But again, no sackings have happened. So there you have it. Scotland beat Uruguay, and they are in the World Cup final against Portugal, who potentially could win it again. They actually won it 4 years ago. Uruguay, France in the third place playoff. This is mad. Things have taken another turn in Sweden, as the BK Häcken have now slipped to the bottom, and Halmstads have actually won a match. Bromma have slipped now back into the relegation places. It is so tight between like the bottom 6 sides down there, and none of them are sacking their managers. Aww. Scotland lost 4-1 in the World Cup final. They got to the World Cup final. That alone is outrageous. Kyle Swanson was presumably their leading man of Rangers, actually. Still at Rangers. Really good player as well. Came through at Liverpool, and he was the leading scorer for Scotland in the World Cup as they reached the final. Portugal win back-to-back World Cups, though. In fact, a lot of back-to-backs. Back-to-back Germany, back-to-back Italy, and now back-to-back Portugal. But to have Scotland there is just awesome. Okay, another update. Things are sort of really go off the rails in the Allsvenskan now. BK Häcken's job has now gone to very insecure. Still no sackings, but they are now 5 points from safety and have been on a terrible run, as have Bromma, who have also slipped back into the relegation places, as Halmstad have been on a lovely little run to pull themselves up. They've got 7 points from like their last 3 matches, I think. They've actually won 2 and drawn 1. Another match day goes by, another defeat for BK Häcken, and they still haven't sacked their manager. And the point is now that they're 8 points from safety with 12 matches to go. I feel like we would again be taking over a sinking ship at that point. They've just fallen off completely. Bromma are now 5 points from safety themselves. This is looking genuinely ridiculous now. So we're now 20 matches into the season, 19 games for BK Häcken, but they haven't sacked their manager. They actually did win their last game too. The gap is 7 points. I think I'm going to stop updating you at this point until something actually happens, because at the moment it's looking very unlikely that those jobs are even going to come up, and if they do, it's going to be too late and too far off of them actually being able to be saved anyway. But yeah, we move, I suppose. Finally, there has been a sacking. Borgström has been sacked by Bromma, and you might think, yes, finally a job. Yeah, no, wait for this next part. Season's finished. Season has bloody finished. They sacked him after the final league game, which announced their relegation from the top flight. The only sacking in the entirety of the Allsvenskans this season was after the season had finished. Obviously, there's still technically the playoff between Østers and BK Häcken. You might also notice BK Häcken massively pulled it out of the bag from being 7 points from safety at one point, pulled it all the way back, and only got into the playoff on goal difference in the end. They were very close to incredibly staying up. Their manager pulled it around amazingly. And just to prove that I wasn't like just ignoring sackings to cherry pick teams or whatever, look, there you go, 4th of November, the only sacking of the season. What are the odds, eh? The league we move to, or want to move to, doesn't have a single opening through the entire season. So I think what I'm going to do now is just get our heads down again, I guess. See if there's anything happening over the off-season. It's unlikely, but I guess we'll be joining you again during next season to see what happens. Let's just check the second tier just to see if there's any interesting teams coming up. So Östersund and Helsingborg are coming back to the top flight, and we'll see what happens in the playoff with Østers against BK Häcken. It'd be interesting if BK Häcken actually won that. Quite an achievement for them, but yeah, I don't know what to tell you. That's the first time I've seen that in ages, to go through an entire season without a single sacking in the middle of it out of 16 teams is kind of mad, but it's sort of typical of us at the moment. So I guess onwards and upwards to 2047, I guess. By the time we get a job, it would be like Blade Runner times. So we're now 10 games in, for the most part, into the next season, and there is finally some more happenings going on. And as you can see, BK Häcken have started off the season relatively poorly again, as have newly promoted Östersund. Now, what that's led to, of course, is both of their jobs being very much on the line. The Icor job as well is also still stable at the moment, but I would say it's tantalizingly close to potentially potentially tipping over the edge as well. But the main one for me that is exciting here is Richard Kuhlberg's job at BK Häcken. He pulled off a miracle to keep them up last season in the end, but it feels like it might be too much to ask. Now this year, they were predicted 9th. They obviously strengthened dramatically in the summer and moved up their rating even further. So I think there's even more pressure on him considering they're underperforming so much. So apparently they're the 9th best squad in the league and are underperforming quite considerably. Last year they were predicted to be, I think, 12th or 11th, and they still fell slightly short of that, but they seem to have improved quite a lot. The Östersund's job, I think, would be an absolute tough one for us in there, and obviously I'm not opposed to it, but it would be very, very difficult indeed. The ICOR one is the one that's really interesting to me in there too, but that, of course, isn't actually up yet. Were they to lose a few more matches, though, and it could become available. But the point is, we're only 10 games into the season, and this is already happening, which is exciting for me, because it means if we could get in there by, like, the halfway stage of the season, it would give us a full half a year to sort this out, and I think that would be okay, although the gap is still starting to gape already at 5 points. So we do have to be very careful, but I think we're just going to keep going and hope that that BK Häcken job becomes available, or something massive happens to Kasper Lausen in his job as well. Everyone else is looking pretty much stable, even though the likes of Djurgården have had a dreadful, well, they had at one point had a dreadful start to the season. They've pulled themselves up to 3rd now, so we'll see. Something has finally happened, and it was not what I was expecting. There has finally been a sacking in the middle of the season, and it was Örebro sacking their manager and not the BK Häcken situation. So obviously, Örebro, again, presumably they were expected to finish higher up than they are. They're actually slightly closer to safety than BK Häcken are. The one thing they do have on their side is secure finances, and they're in a slightly higher position. So obviously, we're going to apply for this job. They're only 3 points away from the playoff spot, and they're still 6 points from safety. But what I'd say is BK Häcken are already 9 points adrift with only 17 matches to go. A lot could change, and they're really only 6 points adrift of the spot that kind of matters. Still a lot of risk in there, but I think they'd be good enough. But needless to say, Örebro, now where were they expected to finish? Yeah, season preview has them now at 12th, because obviously this shifts during the middle of it, but they were listed at 11th on the other one, the media prediction page. BK Häcken have dropped off slightly, but maybe they've lost a player or two. I don't know, but still, I think they're better than where they are in the league, and they might be an interesting prospect for us. So I think we're going to apply for the job, finally, and see what happens, because let's be honest, the Häcken job could easily come up in the same time period as well, but of the two, Örebro might actually be more of a, I didn't even consider them as an option really. They've never won a top flight title either. Good finances situation. They look like us, and they're massive local rivals with Degerfors. What is it with us and moving to the rivals of a team we've already managed? It took them 11 days just to offer us an interview. What on earth? Reservations? Lack of experience in guiding teams away from relegation. Also, that is not true. Let's just ignore the Grotta situation for a second. We've kept teams up multiple times in this save, including Lahti, for a start. We took them from being bottom of the league to being in Europe by the end of the season. I'm fairly certain both Tromsø and Sunniuska were in some pretty deep trouble as well when we took over, so that's a little bit silly. But sure, Alan, let's go for this anyway. Fairly long absence? Don't blame me, blame the lack of sackings in Sweden, sir. Big jump from our previous club. It would, but have you seen the other clubs we managed? So they want to use that. They've got lots of favours, so they've got a lot of requirements here, which I will be ignoring because we're going to play our own style of football. You either want to stay up or you don't, Alan, and they want to be established next season. Okay, so they want to stay up, basically, although they haven't actually required it. Though, to be fair, it was my own fault with the Grotta one for expecting more than that. Wow, £2 million okay. £2 million transfer budget is so much more like it for us. Don't know how much we'd be able to use first season, but the fact that they're throwing that kind of money around makes me think that secure finances is no joke. 100, God, think of the difference between that and what our wage budget was 7,500 at Grotta, and we're going into here with 128 grand. That's much more like it. Now, how much they're spending, I don't know, but that seems doable. Well, they weren't hanging about. Straight in here. Now, we actually I am still going to delay it for a week because there's still no more matches in the meantime, just to see if anything else happens. But I think at the moment, honestly, Örebro looks like it could be the job for us at this point. Was not a team I'd even really considered, but when you look at the club at the moment, the finances being secure, the 3-star rep as well, which is really helpful, and youth facilities are great, training facilities are good, the squad personality seems quite nice, the kits are nice too, which is nice. Big rivals with Degerfors, always going to be fun for the derbies in there too. So I took a massive risk, and that was delaying it a second week, because I saw that they had a game coming up away at EFK Norrköping, and I thought that when you join a club, you tend to get like a boost from when you get your first meetings, and the players tend to get on your side straight away. I was worried that if we came in with our first side, because I know that we take a little while to settle in sometimes, that if we lost our first game, it would hit us with a massive, then, morale deflation again. And I noticed that the next game they've got is at home against Helsingborg, which is a much more winnable match, and I wanted to kind of get the boost for that to make sure we had a better chance of winning. As it happens, they actually managed to get a 1-1 draw away at Norrköping anyway, and it does keep them only 2 points from Östersund and only 5 points away from Varberg. So it's not the end of the world. That extra point is kind of useful. But I felt that this way we could get hopefully a bump when we join them, which we can take into that Helsingborg game and hopefully get ourselves back to within 2 points of them within a match day. And we'll still have 16 games to try to really work on this. And I think for me, with how close this is, there's enough time for us to turn this around at Örebro. Sign players from under 20, they're going to love that. They are going to love our transfer strategy, believe me. And if they've got good enough youth players, which it seems that they might well do, that could be an exciting prospect for us too. So we have to try and stay up, and then it's just established, but I think we can build on that anyway. So let's start negotiations. Let's just get this done. Let's just get in at the club. Hang on. Okay, you were secure a minute ago. I feel like I've been lied to, friends. They said they were secure, and they've turned to okay recently. What did they do with that money? So at least there's no gaps. Like, that was one of the big things. There were gaps appearing in this when we looked at it when we got to Grotta. So I don't know what these guys are going to be like, but they do have an Icelandic dude looking like in the attacking midfield zone, which is pretty... Hang on a minute. It's Bjarne... No way. It's Bjarne Stensland. That is awesome. So we actually have a former player already at the club. What are the odds of that? So yeah, he's a guy I signed at Sunny. It's going to be a backup left wing back, and he did a really good job there. And maybe he can again. Okay, that's more on that in a minute. They've got some players on loan, and they've got a few players leaving on free transfers, which I'm sure I'm going to be just delighted with. I bet they're really good as well, but they're not actually in our first team, are they, here? So maybe that helps. Right, let's go. I mean, it says 5. Then again, this is what the one looked like at Grotta, and you saw how that one turned out. So actually, I'm still kind of intrigued by it, although it is defensive midfielder, fullback, goalkeeper, and a striker who's a fine prospect, in fairness. Lacks quality in goal, and yet it highlights a goalkeeper. I mean, it seems like it's actually quite... I like this. I mean, just from a quick look here, the reason I like this is because there's not a huge fall-off. Like, there's still so many players that are still 3-star, 2.5-star, which is really decent. And some of the 2.5-star guys are youngsters with decent potential as well. That looks like a pretty nice squad. Is he quite young as well? 22 years old. Nice. Ivan Trifunovic, who's got to pull calm off. Calf muscle. He's out for the moment, but yes, please. Just a really, really stable centre-back. On quite big money as well, actually. 15 jumping reach as well, which is lovely. 6 foot tall is irrelevant when he's got 15 jumping reach. Lovely mentals, great positioning. I really like this lad here, so hopefully he'll be an important factor for us. Actually, one thing, before we look at any more players, let's just check the transfers and finances. Oh, yeah. So we've got 2 million in budget, but we've also got 12 grand a week in wage budget available. So who are these two that are leaving, actually, while we're at it? It's an 18-year-old who's going to... Oh, no, he's joining us. He's joining us on a free transfer. And Malik Diallo is joining us on a free transfer from Montpellier as well, who is a centre-back who's 6'4" and has 17 jumping reach on a free transfer. Why did our predecessor get sacked if he's picking up players like this? Not great tackling, but bugger me. That is really, really good news to see another quality centre-back joining us. Next up in the squad is Luis Roberto, who is all over the place, honestly. 6 foot, good jumping reach again. I mean, I might end up playing him in the middle at times, because I don't know where else we'd put him currently. Where has he been playing for them this season? Left back. Okay, that makes sense. Although he doesn't really have much left backery about him. Gets forward whenever possible. We're not. Then again, it's a wide centre back, perhaps. Right, moment of truth. This is their striker. Oh my god. Oh, he's slow as well. He's the kind of guy. He reminds me so much of Gabriel Ayew. It's unreal. He's the kind of guy that for the first part of our season, I suspect, is going to have to be a striker, but will almost certainly be moved immediately into central midfield on attack when we can find ourselves an actual striker at this club. So that's something at least, because he's slow and lacks any finishing ability. Composure's not great either, but great passing too. Maybe it's the deep lying forward though, actually. Now that I think about it, he might be more appropriate as the DLF, which is just like Gabriel Ayew was at Lati. So actually, the Shartan Aura, oh yes please. Natural wingback, anybody? Can't tackle that well, but to actually have a natural wingback in this squad straight off the bat is really exciting news, because we've got a guy straight off the bat and I don't have to worry about. And he likes big matches and he's consistent. Love that. We've got Tony Brown here, an American who came through at New York Red Bull, which is pretty sick. Lovely mentals. Some decent enough technicals. He'll probably have to operate as one of our central midfielders. He's not perfect for the role, as he does lack the finishing. Does have high composure though, and he's not overly slow. Lucas Garcia, another sort of quite tall fullback type of player. They've got a lot of players in these sort of roles. I wonder what the squad res rules are like for Sweden with the whole. They've got a lot of foreign players in this squad. Great. They've got quite a good team, honestly. Then, of course, they have the man Bjarne Stensland, who, of course, played for IK Sirius and, of course, Sunioska for a few seasons, and, of course, is a natural left wing-back. Did they actually play? Hang on, I want to check their schedule. Now, they've been playing a 4-4-2, and God, they started off all right and really did fall off massively. They don't seem to be losing by huge amounts, but needless to say, yeah, they've been playing a 4-4-2 so far. But the fact that there's actually 2 players that can play as wing-backs in this system is so ideal for us to start off. It means that, to me, is honestly a huge load off my mind in terms of finding players. I've seen centre-backs, we need an attacking midfielder and a goalkeeper, and I'll be kind of happy. So Erlandson is another sort of left wing-backy type of player. Model citizen. Oh! And he's only 21. Homegrown. Love that. They've also got Tudor Jorge in the midfield as well. Another sort of, I don't think they're entirely ideal for the attack, for the roles we want to put them in the midfield, but at least they're quality midfielders. Here's their keeper. It's Denaire, another Brazilian as well. Good reflex, really good reflex. It's only 5'11". One-on-ones is not bad. Aero reach is solid. Really determined as well. I like him. He looks solid. There's Sertabur Larsen as well, who's a striker with... he's got good composure, and he's not slow. He's not super slow anyway. So it might be a case of him and our other friendo through the middle as the striking options. And he's got an okay left foot to go with it. Likes big matches too. Not very consistent though. Backup goalkeeper is Snyder, Icelandic keeper. Really solid backup too. Stefan Longa, another sort of 17 jumping reach centre back. Yes, please. Not great technically, but again, aerially, we know how bad we can be from the air sometimes. He may leave and get loads of money off the bill, but either way, good. And he came through Degerfors. Hawkinson, another huge... God, they've got enormous centre-backery in this club. Julio Gomez. I haven't seen a lot of attacking mids yet, which is worrying. He might end up having to be our best bet right now. Where's that Icelandic dude gone? The last first-team squad member is William Gargo, so they definitely have a lot of wide players. The one thing I think we're missing is striking options potentially beyond the first two and attacking mid. But it was an Icelandic name I saw in that squad report thing, so maybe he's in the youth team. Let's check the youth teams, I guess, because this is all we've got in the first team currently, unless he's injured, to be careful. Ah, there he is. Hjörvar Einarsson. Beautiful. Only got 10 passing and 10 vision, but the potential on this lad suggests to me that he's the kind of guy that we need to get into this team as quickly as possible. They bought him in from Breidablik, and he looks like he's a perfectionist personality, good on both feet. I think we could build around him, but not build around him, but I think he's an exciting player. We need to play him more. It feels like anyone who's good in there has kind of already gone out of it. Hopefully we'll get better in the youth intake this year, but there's a lot in this team that I really do like. And in terms of fixtures, obviously it's a tough start. Well, I say it's a tough start. We've got Helsingborg at home, then it's a tough run against Hammarby and Malmö, but then BK Häcken at home as well. Then Elfsborg away, we've got Degerfors at home, Ostersunds, Varberg. Like, we've got some really good matches, I think, in there. Particularly as our first three big games that we need to really target are all at home as well. So that's exciting. I don't know. I think we can turn this around for them. I don't think they're that far off of it anyway. And I think we really only need to sort of just be slightly better than those other sides. And I think that's definitely capable. With the team that this lot have, I think it suits our tactic for the most part. And I think with the right signings and acquisitions, we could definitely strengthen them, maybe even over the course of this summer, in fact, just to make them that little bit better to suit what we want to do. But I think there's plenty of... I think they have the facilities, in terms of the players, to have enough in the quality in the tank to actually keep these guys up this season. And then kind of go from strength to strength from there. Because I think there's a lot of good players in this team. Some good young players coming through. What are the rules like in the Allsvenskan? Minimum of 9 players train in Sweden for 3 years before 21st birthday. But that doesn't appear to be registration per se. We just have to have trained in Sweden. That's way better. I thought it was like Norway. That's much, much better. So anyway, if you're looking forward to our time at Rebro, then drop a like on the video. That would be fantastic. If you are new to the channel and you're looking forward to it, drop a like, drop a subscribe. That'd be cool too. I stream on Twitch Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays, so go follow there as well. And I'll see you guys, not tomorrow, on Monday as we get things cracking, and hopefully we can keep these guys up. Hold your gun, capybara. Bye-bye.